Salutations, comrades, truth seeking all be back with another one. Hope all you good brothers are keeping well. And disclaimer for YouTube, this is for educational purposes only and a little bit of entertainment. But let's get into today's topic, man, because obviously I've got the poll videos. We're going to get into some deeper shit. But for the time being, I felt compelled to make this video. And I think it's very clear, actually, after several years making videos, there's some positions which I previously had. And I wouldn't say that I've done a 180, but I think it's, time to address some things. So I think it's clear that men don't want good women, bruv. I'm sorry, man. I'm just going to keep it 100. Men don't want good women, and I don't care what anybody says, right? I don't care about the idealism or the hypotheses, right? I'm talking about real world anecdote, what you can observe. Men don't want good women, bruv. It's a lie, right? I will say the only nuance and the only exception is when you're really young, because me personally, I don't believe that good women exist anyway. Especially for the OGs of us that have been here, you already know that. But let's just say, for the purposes of face value, under a certain age, women are virgins, they're innocent, they're pure, whatever, right? Let's just go with the Disney, right? So if that is the case, which I don't believe it to be, but if it is the case, then that's your best bet. But once you leave school, once you get to the age of consent, the age of adulthood, we're going to get to the women later, but we're going to stick with the boys first. We don't want good women, bruv. And if you don't believe me, let's get into it, right? Red pills. They say that if a woman's not having sex with you, then you should drop her, right? She's a waste of your time. She's wasting your time. You shouldn't be in that position. She's treating you like a gump. Okay, interesting, right? That's red pills. Black pills. Black pills believes if she don't want to have sex with you, then that means she's Chad exclusive, right? Determinism. Oh, if she's not having sex with you, that means she doesn't find you attractive. If it was Chad, if it was Tyrone, he wouldn't have to do all of this. Okay, interesting, right? Even blue pills. Blue pills will all be in the friend zone and play possum, right? They will play possum for even the premise or opportunity of getting a piece of pie. Because let's be honest, that's what every single man is in it for. And I'm a man, so I'm not going to tell you guys that that's wrong. I think that society tries to shame men for that, and I think it's stupid. Because intrinsically, not only men, right, but human beings in general, they're quite sexual as creatures, right? And one thing I want to dispel, there's this misconception that it's only men that are sexual. Listen, if you've grown up around women, if you've been in the real world, you can actually make a solid argument that women are actually more sexual than men, right? Because, and this is just anecdote, so you could take it with a grain of salt, but for those of us who've had relationships, right, what I've noticed is even if you could say even if it's initial, right, initial attraction or initial visceral attraction, obviously the man's going to display it overtly, so it's easier to gauge, it's easier to measure, right? Because we don't really hide our intentions. Now you can argue that society makes it acceptable for men to be horny and it sort of shuns women for being horny, but I don't think that this is the case. I don't believe so. I think, yes, women hide it from us. They hide it from men. They don't hide it from each other though. Right? When I was in school, I'm going to get to the relationship part, but when I was in school, these women, the guys they were attracted to, they made themselves so available to them, you wouldn't believe. They would literally hang around outside the pee room. I'm not joking. And it's not just in films. They will hang around the pee room, wherever the boys, when they finish playing football, the boys they were attracted to, they will watch them play football. They'll talk about them constantly. It was crazy. Whereas with guys, we can't even do that shit. Imagine we'll get arrested, bruv. If we did that in school, we'll get called creeps, we'll get called weirdos, right? And we wouldn't even put that much pressure on the women that we did like or the girls that we did like because we thought that they weren't interested. So our sexuality and our sort of, our behaviors were always shunned. by the adults, by the teachers, by our parents. Like if you go home and you're telling your parents, yeah, there's this girl at school that I like her, they're going to immediately set you up for failure and tell you to start providing offerings like she's some goddess, like this is a temple, like yes, bring her flowers, buy her chocolates, tell her you like her, speak to one of her friends, ask what she finds interesting. They tell you all these stupid, I have to calm down, I'm trying to be relaxed, right? It's very hot and I'm very bothered, but I'll keep it based. They try and tell you these stupid ways of trying to gain the attraction or the affection of a woman, where there's so much evidence to suggest that it's either inherent, right, which means that it can't be determined. And this is something that I'm not fully sold on yet. And I would say there's a lot of nuance there. That's why I kind of leave it alone, because they can argue, you can argue that it's inherent, right? But that ain't gonna stop them from pushing you off that cliff, promoting gumpery from a young age, right? Even when I had a girlfriend. When I had girlfriends, I'm not the one trying to bang them every day. Especially if I'm working, I'm busy. Do you know what I mean? Like I got other things going on other than them. I'm not one of them guys that's just obsessed with his girl and then dropping everything. No, I live my life and you are the accessory. You are the plus one. You aren't my world, right? I can imagine you leaving. I can imagine and envision a world without you. So I'm not there being a gump. Even before the manosphere existed, even in my youth, I was never that sort of person. But in fact, it was the opposite way. It was the opposite way round. That's what I found. And guys I've spoken to is the same way. I don't think we're as sexual as we've been led to believe, right? But anywho, I don't believe that good women exist. But let's just play a hypothetical game. Let's play a hypothetical game. There's generally agreed upon criteria of what constitutes a good woman, right? So let me just give you this game, right? Let's say you got a 7 out of 10 virgin, right? Or very low body count, whatever you require. Just idealism right now, perfection, right? But let's say she got a strong father, she got strong brothers, right? She's close with her family, they support her constantly, and she has extremely high standards for you and herself. You get that, right? Do you feel that? Do you feel that in your stomach? Can you feel that? That coil, the little shiver up your spine. Did your dick just shrivel up and hop back into your gut? Did it? Huh? You're telling me you really want a woman, if you're being honest, you really want a woman who demands marriage before sex, whose dad or brothers will constantly intervene in your business and attempt to check you whenever you try to check her. Really? Because I ain't buying it, bro. I don't believe none of that shit at all. And I constantly have to hear guys in the manosphere, I don't care what pill is they identify as, I constantly hear guys capping about this in the manosphere. It's bollocks, right? I might even have been guilty of it myself in some videos, bro, but I'm just here to say no. It's all bullshit. All this nonsense, all it does is provide coping mechanisms and excuses for men to consistently pursue women. And that's why sometimes, I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, sometimes I'll shoot women a bit of bail. Honestly, I'll shoot them a bit of bail, because the way I look at it is like, look, we can argue that it makes them bad people. We can argue that they're manipulative and, they're being quote unquote morally corrupt or morally bankrupt. But at the same time, power is one of those things where it has, it has to be afforded to those, right? It has to be wrestled, right? Slavery is a choice, So if women know that this is how men are, all they have to do is throw in a bit of waterworks, play a bit of innocent, puppy dog eyes, butter won't melt in the mouth, lie to you, And if they know that that's good enough to get through the door, if they know that that's good enough to slip through your radar, slip through your net, can you really be mad at them for doing what they do? Could I even make the argument that the majority of relationships between men and women is based on lies, fundamentally? It's based on, and if we want to be generous and not say lies, can we at least say that it's based on idealism, where everybody wants to put their best foot forward and pretend that they're going to give, the person everything that they wish from a relationship? Because I don't see relationships like that. I haven't experienced relationships like that. And I actually think it's more like a tug of war. It's more like a tug of war where you're trying to get what you want for as little investment as possible. And that is the truth. And I've said this years ago, actually. So forgive me for reiterating it, but I will. The woman is trying to get as much experiences out of you, as much happiness, joy, experiences, holidays, mental stimulation, exhilaration, thrills, sexual satisfaction from you. So there's a laundry list of things that she wants from you, and from, and then from men, what do they want? Because I often hear guys saying, men don't really want much. Well, I disagree with that. Yes, I'm going to walk it back a bit. On face value, right? And let me make this very clear. At face value, you can say that men don't require much. But is this really the true story? Is this really the full picture? Because that is reliant upon the basis that women are inherently good. You see how the mind games work. You see how they slip in these ways of, covert gumpery into whatever ideology that, that purports itself to be masculine or purports itself to be, for men. Is bullshit. You are assuming that men have lower expectations from women because you are assuming that they are inherently good, that they can't lie to you, that they can't cheat, that they can't steal, that their intentions are pure. Do you really think that women just want to be these obedient housewives, these obedient slaves that just have children and they just want to serve you and be there for you 24/7 and not demand nothing from you and do as they're told? What the hell is wrong with guys these days, man? What is wrong with us, bro? Why do we even still believe that? I stopped believing that ages ago. That's why I made the choices in my life that I have, brother. I don't even know how that shit even went through customs in the first place. That was years of indoctrination, years of societal programming that convinced us of this. Women don't want to do these things. And it's not a secret. They want to be hard carried through life. Because with their acute eye, with their astuteness, they can look around and figure out very quickly, as most humans can, irrespective of intelligence, life is hard. Money has to be made in order to sustain oneself, right? The things which you need to do, or the things which you want to do, are in a constant tug of war with the things that you need to do. And the cherry on the top is, behind all endeavors, behind all pursuits, they're all locked behind a paywall. Unless you're willing to go out and do things which are free, which is obviously, there's limits to that. How much satisfaction can you have from the things that are free? If everything that was free was so rewarding, we wouldn't have any issues. We wouldn't have a manosphere. The world will be a utopia, right? This isn't the case. The things which we really want access to are locked behind a paywall. Women know this. They also understand the dynamic between men and women. They think, oh, wait a minute, they can't just have sex with us when they want. So this is our weapon. This is the tool that we use to get our way. This is all we have. We can't put them in a chokehold, right, and make them tap out and give us what they want. When we need money, we can't go out there and mask up and rob a bank. That's not their strong suit, so they have to play to their strengths. And this is why I say it's very hard to call them evil for it. because I've been guilty of it too. And just for the record, I do think they're evil. I'm going to keep it 100. But I'm just creating some sort of counterbalance to my own narrative. And that's the problem with critical thinkers. You know, one might think that it's contrarianism, but it's not the case. It's just when somebody is speaking or producing rhetoric in good faith, not only do you question the people who you disagree with or the opposition, you're also constantly challenging yourself and your own ideas, and you make adjustments if necessary. I think that's very genuine. I think most men should be doing that, because if you're too stubborn and stuck in your ways, you know, you turn into a fossil. You're going to end up like these boomers who are telling us to pull your laces up by the bootstraps. Oh, you lot are gay now because you don't even have girlfriends, and you want all these demands and you're not real men. You don't want to end up like these boomers. You have to evolve mentally with the times. You have to be able to take information that's in front of you, process it accurately, right? And then apply it. That's called practical application. That's why I always talk about being a pragmatic nihilist. The offside of that is doomerism. Yes, you could just think, oh, everything's bad and the end result is doom and we're all going to be fucked anyway. But when you're a pragmatic nihilist, you're like, no, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to overcome whatever hurdles in my way. The things I cannot control, I'm just going to disregard them entirely to the best of my ability. And that's pretty much like the ethos of my message. Like, guys, pay attention, listen to me, take a seat, drink your beer, take a sip of your juice, right? You cannot control women, bro. That has been one of the most fatal flaws in the manosphere for ages. And it's so hard to put that point across without somebody jumping down your throat. Our elders, they were under the impression that they could control women, and that's the reason why so many of their relationships didn't work. That is the reason why so many of us are even born in the first place, because they were having children young. And I know there's a lot of rhetoric on the other side of the fence to say, oh yeah, well, women are more fertile and it's better to do it and get out of the way. I'm not one of them guys that's subscribing to that. If you subscribe to that, best of luck to you. Let me know how it works out in 20 years. Because unlike you, I don't want to have to put myself in that position to be proven right or wrong. I don't believe that it's necessary. I don't believe it's necessary. Not everybody that's here wanted to be born. That is very important. Let alone somebody tell me out of their lying mouth that they're going to put all their hopes, dreams and aspirations into one of the most disloyal, dysfunctional, selfish creatures on this planet. It doesn't make sense. The laws are against you. You're swimming against the tide. Women don't want it. They have an out. They have an option. And who are we to condemn them for being, what's the word? Blackpilled. Wow. You didn't think I would say that though. I know, you guys, I know you didn't think I would say that. Because that's very blackpilled in my opinion. Sometimes I connect, psychologically, right? Or with the psyche of women, and then I kind of understand it. What, do you expect them to be happy that they're physically weaker than us? Like, even guys, even if you remove women from the situation, look how many of us are online complaining about our height or our lack of genetic material, the getting the short end of the stick when it comes to genetic determinism, right? Being neurodivergent, being short, being weak, being uncomfortable around strong, tall, confident men, lacking self-awareness. We complain about a lot of shit. So imagine how they feel. You think women don't want to go out there and rob a bank? You think they just want to sell their bodies? You think they want fat, slimy, sweaty men huffing and puffing all over them for that $40? You think they want that? See, we have to be fair. We have to be fair. So it's very black-pilled of them to say, you know what? I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm not going to care about the moral implications of it. And that's fine with me. That's fine with me, because guys like me, we're going to keep telling you guys the same thing. Build yourself up, become better, make your money, put all of your Disney dreams to bed, not so that you can get women. And that's something that I have a major issue with. It's not so you can get women. In fact, it's the complete opposite. You build yourself up physically, financially, mentally, so that you never feel like you need a woman in any capacity. Whether it's for children, whether it's for legacy, whether it's for time and companionship, you don't need them guys. Only the gumps will say, women, you can't live with them, can't live without them, right? Bollocks. Bollocks. I live without them all the time and I do fine. I treat them accordingly. When I need to fix a bind, I'll fix a bind. If I can try and finagle a friends with benefit situation where I have minimal investment and I put myself in a low risk scenario, that to me that's winning. That's when I'm happy. That's when I'm in prime form. That's when I'm at optimum capacity. These guys lumbering around with their pram and their push chairs, right? They're all balding, they're all miserable, they got grey hairs, they all got pot bellies. That is not an optimum man to me. They've got a woman running them down, arguing with them, living with them, farting in their covers, stressing out their pocket, stressing out their mind. Those guys aren't operating at optimum capacity, brother. And I haven't seen it, because I see through all the cap. I haven't seen it. You can only make the argument that when your life, is going well, when you lack the ability of sexual access, it does affect you a bit, especially, those guys that are trying to go monk mode, or if you're trying to be, spiritually disciplined and control that aspect of you. There's nothing wrong with that to me. But when you start getting your bread, you start feeling like, someone's got to start administering blowjobs, respectfully, man. Someone's got to be making me feel good in that way so that I could feel like more of a champion. That's the truth. I'm not saying that you're doing it just for that, but that's when you're in your peak. That's when you're in your high. And you're not really going to get that experience, or you're not going to get that feeling, right? Or that position when you do have a woman that you're connected to, that you live with, that you have children with, that you're married to. And in fact, I will say that you're one step away from the plank when you're in those situations, because those men, they get crushed the most. Yet they're the ones that are the loudest that speak against these sorts of rhetorics. They're the ones that call us gay. They're the ones that call us losers. Why? Because we're telling men to look after yourself and prioritize themselves. The same way that women do. They just have to do it a different way. So if we remove that option from them, okay, blue pills, okay, gumps, you can have them. You can have them all. You can have all the children. You can have the future. That's fine. We're living for today. One day we're going to die. And then you will have to sort out this shit that you created. You're going to have to sort out the fatherless homes, because these women are going to continue to leave you. Your children are continue to be raised by women where they're going to be chaotic, where they're not going to have order and discipline. And it's just going to have more trickle, snowball effects, and it's going to trickle onto wider society. And then you're always going to be the weak men, and there's never going to be strong men. There's never going to be a generation of strong men, because strong men must separate themselves. They must do the maths and say, no, this isn't worth it. No, I'm not doing it. Sorry. I've been sold the lie, and politely, respectfully, I opt out. So it's only going to be the weak men that perpetuate this cycle. So forgive us for bowing out gracefully. At least we're doing it on our own terms. And some of these idiots, they're going to keep getting married. They're going to keep getting divorced. They're going to keep waiting outside of the home that they paid for, whilst there's another man walking around and they're disciplining his kids and screwing his ex-wife, ordering pizzas and tacos, while he's sitting in his car with the engine off, sending text messages like, yeah, I'm outside. Make sure you pack everything for the weekend. That's the new cock chair, isn't it? That's how it comes across. Why would you want parts of that? It doesn't make sense. Build yourself up so you don't need to partake in that. Separate yourself, man, and be the difference. Be the difference maker. Be different. And then in 10, 15 years, 20 years time, these guys can now turn around to you and say, you was right. It was the worst decision I ever made. Why? Because they gave their whole spirit, energy, and essence to a bunch of ungrateful people, bruv. Their children aren't even guaranteed to love them. Their wife ain't guaranteed to love them. Everybody will turn their back on them. Why would you want to be that guy? Please don't be that guy, man. Please.